Good morning, everybody. We'll just give you a minute to get settled and a few more people to come in to the meeting, and then we'll kick everything off where we're going to talk about understanding business setup in the UAE. Just have a few more people joining us. We're expecting a big crowd today.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Good morning,
Good
everyone.
morning. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Jalila Hansali.
Good morning, Jalila. Good morning, everyone. If you want to just pop in and say good morning in the chat box, maybe let us know where in the UAE you're coming from, or if you're coming from another part of the world and interested in UAE business setup, you're very welcome. It's always great to hear where everybody's from.
Good morning from
Great, and we've got Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Amal Quain. Great, lots of Dubai. Oh, someone's in Japan, and someone's in Doha, Sharjah. I have a rule that we have to get every single bit of the UAE. I think that's super important. I want to see every emirate as part of here. We have somebody in Saudi Arabia, Istanbul, moving to Dubai. Someone's in Croatia, Jordan. Look at this. That's fantastic. Just like the makeup of the UAE from all over the world. Okay, I'm going to kick everything off because we want to stick to time this morning. So we're going to get started. And before we delve into the session and talk about understanding business setup in the UAE, I would like to ask Hiba from UN Women just to say a few words to kick us all off, please.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I'm so happy seeing all these ladies joining. I just want to thank them all and welcoming them to attending, this workshop that is part of the Stimulating Equal Opportunities for Women Entrepreneurs program by UN Women and NAMA. And I would like, of course, to thank Saleh for his support and his time and his effort for supporting women entrepreneurs in the UAE. Welcome, enjoy the session. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Hiba. Okay, well, if we can move on to the first slide. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jen Blandos. I am an entrepreneurship consultant with UN Women, and I've also been an entrepreneur for close to 20 years. So I've been there, done that, done a lot of challenges and opportunities I've seen as being an entrepreneur. And we have Saleh Alobeidli, who's with us from ICLO law firm, and he's going to share with us everything that we need to know about business setup in the UAE. But before we jump into that, I wanted to share some news with you because everybody's been asking us, saying, what's happening with the UN Women NAMA program? What's happening? What's going to happen for female entrepreneurs? So if we could have the next slide, I'm going to share with you what is going to be happening. Actually, sorry, first, before we do that, the other thing I wanted to share with you is everybody's social media handles, especially UN Women and NAMA Women. I know when we run these sessions, a lot of you tweet, put on Instagram, put on LinkedIn, and we would love it. We love you sharing and talking about what women entrepreneurs are doing in the UAE. So please do share what we're doing on social media today as well. Okay, so what are we doing over the next couple of years? Well, up until the end of 2022, we have a very comprehensive program lined up for all of you. And the great thing about this is a program for all women entrepreneurs in the UAE. So if you are a woman, if you're a woman, if you are in business, if you have a business, if you're thinking about setting up a business, there is going to be something for you as part of this program. Now, this program is called Stimulating Opportunities for Women Entrepreneurs, and we're going to be looking at helping generate opportunities for you across a variety of channels. The first thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be having online workshops, and I'll get into a bit more detail about that for what you can expect, because those online workshops are for everybody. So there's no prerequisites for you to join. If the topic that we're running online is of interest, you are very welcome to join. We are also going to be running a mentorship program up until the end of 2022. And that is because when we did a survey at the end of last year, that we found that so many women were saying that they wanted to have, Kelly, could you go back, please? I need the previous slide. We found that so many women wanted to have a mentor. So we're going to be looking at that and launching a mentoring program. So for those of you who are looking for a mentor to help you grow in business, we're hoping that we'll be able to help support you with that. We've also recognized as well, speaking with a lot of female business owners, that sometimes that they struggle to go from having their idea of a business to actually setting up and running a business. So we're going to be running 3 16-week accelerator programs for women who are looking to get into business. So you can expect to hear more information about that. But then those of you who have had businesses for a while also need to have opportunities to grow as well. So we'll also be looking at running Grow Your Business weekends for women who have more established businesses. And then we'll also be identifying ways that we can help support women entrepreneurs who want to either sell their business or to be able to get investment in their business. And we'll be looking at having pitch days to show you how you can pitch to investors and how you can get investment within your business. And one of the areas that we hear that women really like to have a lot of is networking. So we will also be looking for a number of opportunities across the country, both online and face-to-face, where you will be able to build your network and to be able to network with other women business owners and also connect with other people that you might be able to do business with. So as you can see, it's very ambitious, and there's a lot of opportunities for anybody who is a business owner to get involved in this program. If we could go to the next slide. Just going to very quickly show you, as part of that, in the online workshops. So these are the areas that are going to be really important for you, because anybody can take these. So what we've done is we've identified that we want to have workshops for women who are just getting started in business. And we also want to have workshops for women who want to grow their business. So you will notice that we're going to have workshops twice a month, and our workshops on Mondays. So today is a Monday, and this is our foundation level workshop. So these workshops are really great for women who are involved in setting up a new business. But then also on Wednesdays, the workshops we have on Wednesdays are going to be helping women grow their businesses, and we'll have more advanced topics. And these will typically be for women who have had their business for a while. So I'm not going to read through all of the topics, but you can see on the screen, it's very comprehensive. Basically anything and everything that you need to set up and run a business in the UAE and be successful, we will be running a number of workshops to support you. So I hope you're going to stick around until the end of today, because after the session with Saleh, I'm going to tell you what is coming up for the next 3 months and what to expect. So you'll want to stick around, because we've got some really great news with that as well. So next up, I would like to introduce you to Saleh. And Saleh is going to tell us everything that we need to know about setting up our businesses in the UAE. So Saleh, over to you.
Thank you very much, Jen. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, everyone. I'm really delighted to have this opportunity to speak and joint efforts with UN Women, as well as NAMA Women Advancement Establishment, with their beautiful aim to empower women entrepreneurs. My name is Saleh Alobeidli. I am a lawyer and partner at ICLO law firm based in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. We are a full licensed local law firm with a dedicated practice for startups. The aim of our startup practice is to support the startups ecosystem and to empower startups and entrepreneurs. So we are really super excited to be here today with you all, and with this large number of attendees, which make me more excited. I look forward to have a very interactive session. I think Jen haven't mentioned this. We will be very happy actually to have an interactive session. So please feel free to raise your questions, comment, input, whatever, because I'm sure among you there are so many expertise in different fields, including business. So here we go. So we can start and we can move to the next slide. Okay.
Okay, everyone, before we get started, actually, what we want to do is we want to know where you are at the moment. So we're going to have a poll pop up, and we would like to know where you are at the moment. Are you thinking about setting up a business? Are you ready to register your business? Have you registered a business, but maybe you're kind of thinking, maybe I'm not sure if I'm in the right place or not? Or are you thinking, have you set up a business, but maybe you want to change your trade license? Or maybe it's something else. And if it's something else, please do go and write it in the chat box as well. So Hiba, if we could have the first poll pop up for everybody that they could see. And if I could ask everyone just to give us feedback on that poll. There we go. And then we'll kick off the session. And also as well, if I can ask everybody as we go along, because we have a huge, huge, huge group today, please can you put your questions in the chat box? And then if you want to have an opportunity to unmute yourself, we'll look at doing that towards the end of the session, because I do want to make sure that we get through everything today to make sure that we cover all of the topics for you. Okay, if we can just have a few more of you fill that in, please. So Saleh, it looks like we have quite a few people looking at the poll so far, about 64% so far that are thinking about setting up a business or ready to register a business. So this workshop is going to be very, very relevant to so many people. But then we also have quite a large number as well. We've got about 37, 38% who have a trade license already and want to have a better understanding, or have already set up a business, but maybe thinking about changing their trade license as well. So we have a lot of people here who want to know anything and everything about business setup in the UAE. Hiba, I think we can close the poll now. That's good. Thank you everybody for filling that in. And there's a few questions that some of you are posting in the chat box already. And just to let you know, those questions are going to be answered because we have answered them in the presentation. So we'll be with you shortly on that. Okay, next slide, please, Kelly.
Okay. I'm glad to see actually around 50% that they are thinking to set up a business, because with this large number of attendees, I will try to speak a bit general, but please, if you have any specific scenario or matter, please raise it in the chat box. So, speaking about setting up business, let's all agree and understand that the financial aspect of setting up business is crucial in any business whatsoever. So it's no matter how how much you are going to spend to your, on your business, how much wealthy or not you are. Once you are going to set up a business, the profitability of this business will depend on various aspects, and most important is the financial aspect. So I would like to give advice, a general advice to everyone. Please, first of all, don't avoid the law, because some people, they may think that they can go around the law. No, we are here to comply with the law. So this will safeguard your business in the future. Second important point, don't run and go and get your trade license unless you need to make sure that first you have a proper business plan in place. You have a proper financial plan. Your business model is being verified and confirmed by some experts. So you are absolutely ready to go, then you go and set up your license. Why? Because this pre-work or the preparation could take you up to a year. So if you go and set up the license today and then try to do all the business plan, etc., you might reach the end of the year and you incur unnecessary cost. Also, the second reason, once you have the full business plan and the full material in your hand, you will understand exactly which type of license you need. You will understand exactly whether a Dubai Mainland a better option or Jabza, Jebel Ali Port Free Zone is a better option. So that's why don't go and rush and get your trade license. Do the homework, prepare your business model, prepare your business plan, prepare your financial plan, your alternative plan, and then go ahead and take the right and relevant license. So this is just a general remark before you go and get your license. And at that position, you will understand quite clearly which trade license you need. Now we will try to differentiate and give you all the details about and the difference between all the structure available in the market, whether a mainland, whether a free zone, whether a financial zone, whether freelance. So you will be familiar with. Also, one point before we go ahead as well. Usually my presentation style is much short in content. However, this one, we try to put quite enough details so all of you can read and understand later on, and we don't mind if the organizer also will share the presentation later with all of you. So now we can move on and go to the next slide. Okay, so this question, we always receive this question from startups, from not only from also foreigners, but also from local. What is the difference between setting up a company in the mainland or in the free zone? Where there is advantage, where there is disadvantage. So setting up in the mainland, also before we do so, we need to understand that in the UAE, we have really a massive number of options where to set up your company. So for example, we have 7 Emirates, so we have 7 mainlands, and we have over 50 free zones. So the options is massive, and we always think that this is an advantage. So you can set up your company exactly where you will take and utilize the full advantage of this jurisdiction, whether a mainland or a free zone. So mainland is a company registered or licensed by the Emirate authority in each emirate, and usually it's the economic department. So if we are in Dubai, Dubai Mainland company get licensed by Dubai Economic Department. The same with Sharjah Economic Department. The same with Abu Dhabi. The same with the rest of it.
No.
So what is the mainland, or what is the advantage or the restriction of the mainland? The advantage of the mainland, once you have a mainland license, you can conduct your business all over the country. So you are absolutely legally and legitimately free to conduct your business all over the UAE. However, there is a restriction, and the restriction is quite well known by everyone, that a mainland company needs a 51 registered share, 51% registered share under the name of a local partner. So this local partner can be a true partner, can be a silent partner. This is something else, and we can also address any concern you have about this structure. However, the good news that recently there was an amendment in the law, and the UAE have established foreign direct investment within the mainland. So each emirate going to publish specific activities where any foreigner can set up 100% ownership license in the mainland. And as far as I know, I think Abu Dhabi Economic Department have already announced around 1,000 activities that a foreigner can have a full ownership in those trade license. So this is about the mainland in general. We will give more differentiation while we are moving on. We can go to the next slide. Okay, a free zone. A free zone, as I said, we have 50 plus free zones in the UAE. And why you license in free zone? First of all, free zone, since the beginning, they give you 100% ownership. So if you are a foreigner and you need the 100% ownership, this is where you can license your company in one of the free zones. The second, more important actually aspect is what advantage you may take from a free zone. So if your business activity related to import or export, you may need jobs a free zone. Or if it's related to air cargo or flights, you may consider DAFZA, which is Dubai Airport Free Zone. If it's media, you may consider a couple of options within the whole UAE as a media city, whether Dubai or Sharjah or Abu Dhabi. So this is the advantage of being in free zone, is to get a specific advantage of the core business of that specific free zone. Of course, with this recent amendment of the foreign direct investment, I think free zone should be able to come up with further advantage to still attract foreigner investors to set up within free zone. So let's go to the next.
I have actually, before we move on to that, there's a couple of questions that people are popping into the chat box about free zones. And one that's coming up a lot is about activities and what activities people can do in free zones. Can you elaborate on that and explain the differences between different free zones and activities that are allowed?
Yeah, we can go to the next slide because I think the answer is already here. So see, activity, okay, you have a poll here, but
yeah, sorry.
The activity here, it depends on the license. So for example, if you go and check out, because we are speaking about a couple of thousands of activities, so there's no way I will name the activities here. But if you, for example, go to the website of the authority, whether, for example, the economic department or the free zone, you can check the activity within this free zone or within this economic department. So usually the activity within the free zone, it's linked to the core business of the free zone. This is as the related activity. However, you always have the general activity. So for example, in any free zone, including the financial zone, for example, BIFC and ADGM, you still can license activity that is not related to the core business of that free zone. For example, retails, coffee shop, salon, whatever services as well. So you want to take, Jen, this point?
Yeah, I'd like to, because there are some of you who have a registered business already. So could you please fill in the poll and let us know what kind of license you currently have? Do you have a mainland license, a free zone license, or if you haven't registered your business yet, you can just tick, I don't have a trade license yet. Hiba, could you launch the poll for us, please? And while we're having that happen, just to answer a couple of questions, some people are asking questions about the session being recorded, copy of the PowerPoint presentation. That will be provided afterwards, and you'll get some communication from UN Women about that and how you can access it. But yes, this session is being recorded, so you'll be able to get access to that. So if the rest of you could just fill the poll in for us, please. It looks like, Saleh, we've got a pretty equal split between mainland and free zone licenses as well. Christiana asks, is there a major price difference between free zone and mainland licenses?
Yeah, actually it depends on the free zone. So for example, of course, some free zone you can go as low as below 5,000 dirhams to set up a license. Other are more expensive due to their facility, prestigious position. Financial is always higher in terms of expenses. So.
Another question while this is being done is that someone asked, do they have to live in the emirate where they register their business, or can it be in another emirate?
Okay, now it seems I'm going to receive a question related to immigration and okay.
We're not going there.
Yeah, not really sure, but let me also mention some fundamental rules about free zone. We have three types in general. We have the mainland in each emirate. We have all the free zone all over the UAE. And we have two, I need to distinguish them because they are slightly different. And we have two financial free zone, DIFC in Dubai and ADGM, Abu Dhabi Global Market in Abu Dhabi. What are the three differences? The mainland, those are all the UAE laws, all the federal law of UAE apply on the mainland. Okay, this is category number one. Category number two, we have the free zone all over the UAE, except the two financial free zone I just mentioned. Those free zones, again, they are in the UAE and the federal law also apply on them. Yes, they have their own regulation towards licensing and towards conducting business in those free zones. However, for example, if we will take the employment matters, the UAE federal labor law will be applied on all over mainland as well as the free zone. This is category number two. The last category is the financial zone, which is DIFC and ADGM. They have completely their own set of rules. So if there is an employment dispute, there is a specific employment law for each of DIFC and ADGM that it will be applied, and the UAE federal law doesn't apply in those two jurisdictions.
Great. Okay, so it looks like we're basically evenly split between mainland and free zone, but 60% of people in this session don't have a trade license yet. Okay, let's go.
Yes. We can move on to the next slide. The next 2-3 slides, it's all about differentiation. So we will take them quickly, so we allow more space for questions or comments from the attendees.
And just so everyone knows, I'm writing down your questions because there's some similar ones, so I'll group them together for you at the end, Saleh.
Okay, yes. I won't be able to go through the question from the chat, so it's in your hand. Okay.
I'm on it for you.
Yeah, so let's get the next slide as well. They will come both paragraphs next to each other. It will be easy also for the attendees to read later on. So this is very quick differentiation between mainland and free zone. So if we speak about ownership, as I said, mainland, 51% always registered in the name of the local partner. Again, if there's any question related to the local partner, I'm happy to address it. However, as I said, recently there is a new amendment to the law, and there are activities, large number of activities that is allowed for 100% ownership of any foreign investor. So this is about the mainland. About the free zone, as I said, 100% ownership already for the free zone company. Let's go, move to the next slide. So, and what about the scope of business? The scope of business in the mainland, as I said, you can conduct the business all over the country. In the free zone, the idea of the free zone is to do the business within the free zone. So this is an important restriction to be aware of. So if you are licensed in a specific free zone, you shouldn't do business outside the free zone. So you should only do it within the free zone. So I understand there are 50% or more, they are thinking to set up a license. So in order to decide whether to go to a free zone or a mainland, you need to think of your business model later on. Are you going to have salespeople, meeting, activity happening in the mainland? Then you need a mainland. Do you want to move from Dubai and get a client from another Emirates? Then you will need a mainland. Does your business activity very heavily involved with one of the activity or core business of a specific free zone? Then you go for the free zone, because you could end up having two licenses if it's needed. So visa, every regulatory give visas, whether mainland or free zone. And for the mainland, it depends on the economic department, so it depends on the Emirates. Usually they measure it with the space of the office to monitor how many people should be within each office. Free zone, it depends on the free zone. Usually they give up to 6, but if you have a facility, so if you are in, for example, if you have a big warehouse or a factory, then you could get, of course, a much higher number of visas. Okay, financial company audit. If someone will ask me where I can get a free zone or an emirate that doesn't require an audit, I will advise you no. Even if it's not required, it's for your benefit always to have properly audited accounts. Properly audited account is crucial for the success of any business. So mainland is mandatory. Free zone almost mandatory in most of them, but there are exceptions with a couple of free zone where they don't require a company audit. Any questions, Jan, maybe?
Yeah, there's quite a few questions about free zones, Saleh. People want to know if they're in a free zone and they're a services business, can they provide their services outside of the free zone?
No, the right answer is no.
Okay. What about outside of the country? So if they provided services to a company or organization outside of the country, is that allowed?
Usually, usually it is a service. So the question is quite not clear how you will provide the service to outside the company. So for outside the country. So if you are a company registered in one of the port free zone, there are almost in each emirate a port free zone. Of course, you are eligible to import or export to with international companies abroad.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes. But for example, if you have, I mean, today also many may ask question about platform, online platform or e-commerce. E-commerce is slightly different, but yes, it's a very relevant question these days because you are almost on the cloud and your services all are done online within the platform. Today within UAE, there are specific license activity for e-commerce or online platform. Some are within a mainland economic department and also some are available with some free zone. So you have the option whether there or here, but because it's a platform, so even if you are licensed within a free zone, and you have an e-commerce platform, the e-commerce platform, any end users or customer can interact and purchase through this platform. as long as licensed within the relevant activities.
Okay, yeah, because I think there's a lot of ladies who might have things like coaching online or fitness or yoga online or online training courses and want to understand if having a free zone license would be sufficient or if they would have to get a mainland license for that.
Yeah, I think if your license within the free zone give you this activity, then you should be fine, because you could have a client from outside the UAE also subscribing as a customer for a training session or a yoga session virtual.
Okay,
There
excellent.
There are questions I see about the freelance, which will come after.
Yeah, that's coming up.
Yes.
Before we move on, we have a ton of questions about home business and home baking. Do we want to talk about home baking now?
Yeah, this is it's part of the freelance, so maybe we can talk about it within the freelance. Yes.
Okay, let's do that then. Okay, so let's move on.
Anyway, those are very procedural matter, and it's changing from time to time, whether you need an office space, whether there is a minimum or capital. Yes, I mean, most probably if you are in a mainland, there is a requirement of an office, but there is also an alternative to be part of a business center. The free zone, usually they give you within their license package a desk, or if you are not in need of a larger office, I mean, they give you a desk or a virtual desk as well. Even within the mainland nowadays, business center also offer a virtual desk. But this, of course, will restrict the number of the employee. So if you need a larger number of employee, you will require a proper office. Capital, again, there is no minimum of the capital for the mainland companies. However, it will be determined by the legal structure. And once you sign your MOA before the notary public, it will be confirmed at this time. But for example, you cannot, for example, say 1 dirham, but maybe you could say like 10,000 dirhams, still a small amount of money as a capital. So let's move on. Okay, you have another poll.
Yep, here we go. Okay, Hiba, if you could launch the last poll. Just this is more from an interest point of view to hear where people want to set up their businesses as well, just to give Saleh an overview so he can share the right information. If you could please share which area of the UAE you're looking at setting up your business in as well. And it looks like we've got most of the Emirates covered. Dubai, Sharjah, Rak, Al Quwain, Abu Dhabi, Ajman. Oh, we still need a vote for Fujairah. I know there's a lot of people who registered their businesses in Fujairah as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, Al-Fujairah free zone quite active, and actually the Emirate is expanding and developing the port to be one of the largest in the region, actually.
Mm. And Sharjah is very active as well. I know Sharjah trade licenses are very popular with a lot of women entrepreneurs as well. Okay, that's great. Just a little quick poll. Thank you, everybody. We can end that.
Sharjah has actually multiple ports and in different in the Arabian Gulf as well as in the
by 71%. Oh,
absolutely. Sorry, everybody, please make sure that you're muted so we don't have any interruptions. Thank you. Sorry, Saleh, you were saying about Sharjah and their ports?
Yeah, they have like multiple different port free zone in different cities within Sharjah.
Excellent. Yeah, I know Sharjah is very popular with a lot of women entrepreneurs. Excellent. Okay, so let's move on to the next bit, and we're going to talk about this is popular. Everybody, bring on the questions. Write your questions in the chat box, and I will summarize them to Saleh after this slide.
Yes, this is very interesting topic, freelancer permit. Okay, I'll explain it from the beginning of the journey of a freelance and why they are licensed now. And also in relation to some of the questions, whether baking from home or other activities. Usually in the past, any license is a corporate structure, including even the sole establishment, still considered as an entity. Of course, sole establishment, there is no separate capacity between the owner and the company, but it is an entity. And every individual doing anything or working from home was just a freelancer, but not non-licensed freelancer. Recently, globally, actually, freelancer become very much trending, and due to many reasons, of course. So government start licensing freelancer to allow them to compete and to do a better business and to be able also to provide their business up to government departments because they are a license. So this is the concept and the story behind a freelancer. So you are at home, you can do any activity, not any activity to that extent, but you can do an activity that can, the permitted activity that can give you the license of freelancer. Then you can issue a proper invoice, you can collect the VAT, you can have a proper contract with the third parties, with your clients, with the big companies, with government departments. So this is the idea behind freelancer. I hope is it clear? And if there is any question, please feel free to ask those questions. You will see in the slide there are a couple of points. You can, please read them also later on. So the good thing that today, after they license the freelancer, as a freelancer, once you are licensed, you are allowed to also sponsor your family. But you are not allowed to sponsor other people as an employee to you, because this is the next step, which is moving from freelancer to one of the corporate structure. Because earlier we were speaking about scaling, and really the aim of this session and other session conducted by the organizer is to empower women entrepreneurs. So it's not only to keep them all the time in that category of a freelance. Yes, it's a great to start as a freelance. Then you are a company, then you are a more sophisticated structure, inshallah, till you become the next unicorn. So, so this is about freelance. One of the important aspects of freelance, that the liability is not limited. So this is the difference between being a freelancer and being, for example, having an LLC company in the mainland. So you have to keep this in mind. Maybe this requires to put an insurance in place to secure your business, to secure yourself as well. So,
Saleh, just a couple of points. Maybe if you can clarify, we're getting questions around people having an e-commerce site and want to know if they can have an e-commerce site if they have a freelance visa.
Yes, freelance, there's a specific permitted activities in each authority, not in all the authorities. We tried to name the authorities, as you can see from the presentation, the authorities that license freelancer. So there is a specific activity. It's not completely open. And I think having an e-commerce platform, I think it's one of the activity, but not sure which authority. So we have in Abu Dhabi 2454. We have in Dubai Media City, Dubai Knowledge Park, Dubai Internet City, Dubai Development Authority, Go Freelance Dubai. We have RAK Economic Free Zone. We have Sharjah Media City Shams. So almost every Emirates in the UAE, except maybe Al Quwain, the rest are providing for this freelance license. So it's important to put the activity of that license, and they are available on their website.
And someone wants to know if they're providing their services to clients outside of the UAE, is a freelance license the best option?
Sorry, I didn't hear you well. Again?
They want to know if they're providing services to clients outside of the UAE, would a freelance license be the best option for them?
See, this is again depends on the business plan. Legally speaking, it's all about the restriction beside each activity. So usually when you license as a freelance, you will the authority will provide you with the restriction you are not allowed to do. So it depends also on your business model.
Yeah. So you would recommend maybe that they look at these different areas that you've recommended where you can get the freelancer permits, like 2454, Go Freelance, Sharjah Media City, and look at the specific requirements for each place for getting the freelancer permit.
Yes, absolutely.
One question before we move on, and I hear this question a lot, is the difference between a freelancer license and that of an e-trader license, where I believe it's Tajr in Abu Dhabi as well. If you could just clarify what the difference is between those.
Tajr Abu Dhabi, I think you mean. Tajr,
Yeah.
Tajr means the trader, yes, or the businessman. Or the businessman. So this is a small category of, it's a freelance, but it's named beautifully to encourage and support people and individuals who work from home without absolutely any license to at least take this first step license, which is Tajr Abu Dhabi if you are based in Abu Dhabi. And I believe most of the Emirates provide similar, more or less similar license where you can work from home. So I'll give a very simple example again, just to make sure everyone is understanding freelancer. Especially there were a couple of questions about home bakeries or baking cakes or sweets from home. So if you get that freelance license, this is your individual name. It's not a company name. It's still your individual name. However, it gives you a legal framework where you could have a contract with for example, big corporate or big government departments, so you can supply them your products, your cakes or your cupcakes, whatever. So so it will help you to expand your business and to see the opportunities in the market. Then you can decide if you will scale from freelance to a proper corporate structure. Then you can continue your journey.
Saleh, for home baking, though, there are restrictions that you can only do home baking if you're a UAE national. Is that correct? In Abu Dhabi and other places, you need to operate from a cloud kitchen. Could you just clarify for that? Because I think there's a lot of confusion about how you can operate.
Yeah, this is, I was, again, because of also the large number of attendees with different background and different nationalities. So yes, with the freelancer, there are, you will find a list of activities. Yes, some activities may be just restricted to UAE national, others are open. And honestly, we are in an era that you really, those things get updated on a very regular basis. So, since the UAE company law have been enacted, the new one, we got a couple of amendments, significant amendments, almost every year. So I advise everyone also to get an updated information.
So basically, just to be clear, though, that home baking is not allowed, whether you're making cupcakes or cakes or providing meals, that needs to be done through a cloud kitchen with the proper license, unless you're a UAE national and you have special permission to be cooking from home. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So that answers about 20 questions that we've had in the chat box for that. So unless you are a UAE national, you are not allowed to have a home baking business, that you need to operate from a cloud kitchen. Okay. Next slide, I guess, Saleh.
Yes, there we are. Okay. Yeah, because I think this is something I touched upon earlier, because I'm not a big fan of following my own presentation. So, so this is speaking about licensing and different activities. This is the general categories I just mentioned about mainland and financial free zone. And again, you can see, as I said, we have 7 Emirates where you can have a mainland license. Then the recent amendment of the foreign direct investment. And Abu Dhabi Economic Department was the first emirate to publish 1,000 activities in those sectors where a foreigner can have 100% ownership license. The exception, which is still not identified, but it's open for the authorities of each emirate. It's related to strategic activities. So far, exploration and production of petrol, transportation, insurance activities, those are kept as per the original structure as of the company law of the UAE, 51% UAE national. So this is about the details related to the mainland. And the next slide about the financial free zone. Even if there is, we can move to the next slide. Even if we don't have, or the attendees are not expert or specialized in financial related business. However, those are a large market that contain non-financial related activities. So many non-financial related activities. So for example, everyone in Dubai knows DIFC, where you have most of the fine dining restaurants in Dubai, they are based in DIFC. You have almost quite a big shopping mall underneath the DIFC. This is all related and licensed by the DIFC authority, where the financial related license are licensed by Dubai Financial Service Authority, which include banks, wealth management, brokerage, the classic financial related business. The same with Abu Dhabi Global Market. Today, Abu Dhabi Global Market quite large. To make it clear, Galleria Mall in Abu Dhabi, it's part of the ADGM. So if you will open whatever shop in Galleria, your license will come from ADGM, not from Abu Dhabi Economic Department. I already finished the next 2 slides, by the way. Yes. So this is just, we are reaching the conclusion about how to license, where to license, what to consider before you license. So those are the 4 main points. So business activity. So where you are going to have your business activity, this will decide where you are going to, very simply. Ownership. If you need 100% ownership and you are a foreigner investor, then the straight answer is to go to one of the free zones. However, recently you have even more good news about the foreign direct investment in the mainland. So if your activity is one of the permitted activity for the foreign direct investment, you still can take advantage of being in the mainland while you are also 100% foreign ownership. So this is related to the ownership. Licensing fees, again, as I said, it varies from a very low fees up to like around $1,000. And it could go as high as very expensive. Share capital, again, there is almost no minimum requirement nowadays. The exception, of course, those are in any country, you will see the private jointly stock company or the public joint stock company. There is always a minimum significant amount of capital to protect the customers and the end users. Most of the financial related business has, and also the real estate business, include a requirement of a deposit of a significant amount of money or a capital. So those are the key considerations for deciding where to license. Let's go to the last slide, or maybe you have a poll here. Okay. Maybe we can have some questions before we go to this one.
Actually, I have a lot of questions for you that I've been writing down. There's been a lot of questions around coaching businesses and people wanting to understand if they're working as a coach, how is it best for them to set themselves up? Would it be with a freelancer license, or should they be looking at setting up a business? Coaching. So for example, it would, a lot of times it's people who are life coaches.
Yes. Coaching, yes, it's quite ideal for freelance if you are a sole coach. And again, if you have a plan to expand and hire coaches, then you will move from freelance to a proper license, full license, like PLC company. Okay.
And we also have, the question keeps coming up and up, so I don't know if you have the answer for this, but drop shipping. We're getting asked, there's a lot of ladies who want to understand drop shipping and how they would be able to get licensed for drop shipping and what kind of license they need, if it's just a freelance license or if they have to get mainland or free zone, or what would work best.
For shipping?
Drop shipping.
Yes. I mean, later on, I know there is quite a large number of questions. We will be happy actually, even if through you, Jen, they can also email us.
Sure. Okay. All right. Well, your email address, that's the other thing as well, because some are a lot more complicated, and your email address will be at the end of this session as well. So anybody who has quite complicated, because Saleh is incredibly knowledgeable about everything related to business setup, but it is so complex here that I would imagine that sometimes you might need to go away and just double check things to make sure that it's correct as well.
Exactly.
So the other thing as well, some people are bringing up things saying that they already have a visa. What kind of freelance permit would be best for them if they're already on their husband's visa, or they're working for another company, but they want to set up their own business?
Your voice gone for a bit. So they are in a company.
Sorry. Yeah. So women who already have a residency visa, what are options for them for setting up businesses? Because they don't need to sponsor themselves or dependents. So what options would they have for getting correctly licensed?
So freelance license not only to give you a visa. So if you already have a visa, you can still have a freelance to take advantage from the legal framework. But you touch on an important point I can elaborate further, where you still can be a freelance also. You can still get a freelance license while you are still an employee in a company. This is an advantage for the individual and the employees, but this of course require consent or permission from the employer. So the employer, if the employer give you NOC, for example, to set up your freelance license, then you are eligible to set up that license as well.
And those were changes done, I think, a couple of years ago, weren't they, Saleh? Before that wasn't possible, but a few years ago they made those changes. Yeah. Excellent. I'm trying to group all of these together because a lot of them are very similar. One thing as well, so people have also asked questions about any sort of permits or licenses that they might need for their business. So for example, someone went and wrote and said that they're, and we've seen a few questions about that, that they're in the space of education and coaching, and would they need to go and have a permit either from the authorities in Abu Dhabi or Dubai if they're in that space, or is it only if they're directly doing training and having people come to their offices?
No, I think within the free zone, within the authority that license Freelancer, there are specific activities, among them education-related activities. So education-related activities and coaching was expressly mentioned in the activities of the freelancer.
Okay.
So it's very relevant.
Okay, excellent. Let's talk about bank accounts, and we're talking about setting up a company bank account. And I know how you feel about setting up company bank accounts, but there's been a number of questions as well about the minimum deposit requirement needed when you open up a business. Can you explain to people how that works and what they should expect? Because it's not like the bank goes and takes that money and freezes it for the whole time that they have their business. Maybe just walk people through what the deposit in the bank account is for and how that looks like.
Yeah, I mean, there are different between a mandatory deposit by the licensing authority and by the small deposit you just open that the bank require. So,
yeah.
So here we are speaking about the necessity of having a bank account. So those actually the points you see in the slides, those are like a necessary points where they are very important to secure any business and also to allow any business to scale. So our role even in our firm that we work with startups and help them to scale. So in order to scale, you need a very solid ground. So this starts from day one with the bank account. So once you get the license, hurry up and set up the business bank account, your company bank account. Because most of the startup, when they start, of course, they have like self-funding, for example. They fund themselves, yeah. So they use their own personal account, which is very normal and practical. But once you license and set up your company bank account, even if you are self-funding this business, you need to transfer whatever budget you are allocating for the business to your bank account, and then use that bank account only for all the activities related to your business, because you will have financial statement, you will have audited account later on, and this will help you to prepare your investment pitch, will help you have a fundraise. So all of this will be very necessary.
And it is really important to have a bank account from the very beginning that's linked to your company, because there's certain things that we need to have as business owners that are like the foundation for your business. And if you wait with doing that, it's going to be quite difficult to catch up. And especially if you want to grow your business, legally, you should be having a bank account. And there are a number of banks now that have made it a lot more accessible to get bank accounts. I know that it is a challenge for some companies. Actually, could you also maybe touch upon, there's certain banks that will give bank accounts to certain types of companies or certain types of trade licenses. I don't know if you're able to explain that to people, because one of the things that we hear as well is that people will sometimes, especially when you're starting up, you'll say, where's the cheapest place I can go? And, you know, especially if it's the first time you set up your business, you don't fully understand the whole process of how business setup works. And people will go, there'll be some special on somewhere and they'll buy a trade license for 3,500 dirhams. And then they'll find out that they can't get a bank account with that, or certain businesses or certain government departments won't accept that trade license to do business with them. So could you maybe elaborate on that a bit?
Yes, of course, it's difficult to speak on behalf of the banks. So, because in most of the cases, there is like it's the bank discretion. It's the bank discretion. And I understand startups are facing difficulties with most of the banks, but I understand the RAK Bank and Mashriq Bank are more, from our experience with the startup, they are more startups friendly. But I think with the support from the government and this many government incubators, I think it should be an easier process in the near future. What I wanted to say, actually, you mentioned also a very important point about the cheapest license. Let's all agree, we are in the UAE. UAE is one of the expensive country in the world. It's a beautiful country, but it's not a cheap country, of course. So, and as we said, we have 50 plus options where to license. So of course, there is among the 50, there is the cheapest one. But of course, that the cheapest one doesn't mean that all of you should go and only license in that cheapest option. There is reason why this is very cheap in terms of the fees. So never ever consider where to license because of the cost associated only. I say it only because cost is very important. So you need always to see all the options, because you might end up licensing in a very cheap place, or cheap in terms of, I don't want to use the word cheap, but actually in terms of the fees, and you end up finding this license useless and you need to set up another one. So that small amount was just a waste of money. So this is
not
about...
only, I was going to say, Saleh, not only that is that you wasted your money setting up your business, but it also costs you money to close that business. And you can expect sometimes paying 2 or 3 times the amount of money you pay to set up that cheap license to actually go and close it afterwards as well. And I hear this a lot from women entrepreneurs that they got a great deal. They paid 3,500 dirhams, and then they went to go sign a contract with a new client or customer, and then found out that that customer or client would not accept that trade license. And then they end up with a bill of 10 or 15,000 dirhams to go and close that business in that jurisdiction afterwards.
Okay, this is absolutely right. Now I will touch on a very fundamental point for the success of any business. We are reaching 11:40, so I want to make sure all the attendees have their focus with us. This is very crucial. Any business whatsoever, you deal with external parties and internal parties. So don't leave those relationships to the luck or to the, in Arabic we say بالبركة, however it will work. No, make sure any relationship you have with external party, I mean customer, subscriber, supplier, freelance could be, you could have a mainland company, you could have an LLC company and you have a contract with freelance as well. Also, the internal parties. First of all, your partner, your shareholders, your employee. All of this relationship are crucial for any, for the success of any business. So you need to have a proper agreement for all of these. And don't do the mistake of having those agreements downloaded from Google, because those agreements are legally binding. So you need to make sure that have been drafted and tailored for your need by a licensed lawyer. Because you as a businessman, you might go through a contract, and from the terminologies, you will see a very beautiful wording and you will think, oh, this is the ideal contract. But that contract might be really ideal and relevant, but maybe for Cayman Island or for a specific state in the US. It is completely irrelevant to UAE maybe, so it will not be enforceable. So this is very important.
Yeah.
All the agreements related to your partners, shareholders, clients, suppliers. Okay. You want to say something?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say I couldn't agree more with you. I've owned businesses in the UAE and in other countries, and you cannot go and take documents or agreements that you've used in other countries or that you have picked up on the internet and go and use that for your business. And especially if you're planning on growing and scaling your business, that needs to be considered as part of your startup costs, that you need to get those legal documents in place, because if you don't, it can cost you so much money in the long run. For example, maybe you have two of you in a business and you set up the business together, but you set up the business, your friends, and then you find out that you don't work well together and one of you wants to leave or one of you wants to sell. What does that look like? It's always better to have that agreement set up in place, drawn by a lawyer, so it makes any sort of disputes that you might have so much easier to manage, because if not, you end up paying lawyers like Saleh lots of money to go and help resolve that, where you could have ended up paying a much smaller amount to get those contracts and legal documents drawn up in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely right. I will add also, it will not only cost you, it will restrict huge opportunities that come to you. Because when you want to exit from your business or sell your business, there is something called due diligence. So the investor will come to a financial expert to do financial due diligence. That's why I say only use the company bank account, make a proper and auditing account. He will go to a lawyer to do a legal due diligence. So the lawyer will go through all your contracts and agreements, shareholder agreement, supplier agreement, employment agreement. So any weaknesses in those agreements will reduce the value of your business. So investor will not be interested to invest in a company that create or invent products, whatever kind of product, if the company, unfortunately, is not owning those products. And this is take us to the employment agreement. So employment agreement, most of the companies, unfortunately, they rely on the standard labor contract by Ministry of Labor. This is just for a formality. It's 2 pages contract only for a formality. Sometimes we hear that employment contract could be 30, 40, 50 pages. Yes, this is not an extra detail. This is an important detail, depends on each activity. So, for example, there is a very important aspect. You need to clear it in the contract. Who owns whatever the employee creates? If you don't expressly mention this in the employment contract, the employee will end up owning this. So imagine after a huge development for many years, all of this inventions is owned by individual work for the company and doesn't owned by the company. So those contracts are very, very important. So those are the last words I wanted to say. There are, of course, some interesting points about thinking of possible alternate stream of income, consider a reserve fund, and especially while we are talking nowadays, while we still have COVID with us, we can see that companies that manage to continue perform their business, most of them were having an alternate stream of income and having some reserve fund to help them during any pandemic. So this also was something important and to be mentioned.
Saleh, I had a question from somebody about that, about alternative streams of income, that they have an LLC company and they wanted to set up an online magazine that would be in potentially the same area of their business or not. Do they need to get a separate license for that if it's an online magazine, or are they covered within their trade license if it's within the activity?
Yeah, good question. A trade license could carry multiple activities. So they just need to check with the authority where they have their license if they can add this activity. So it's not necessary to have another license, and could be even not directly related, but content-wise is related. So you could have, for example, a restaurant. and you still could issue, for example, an online magazine related to F&B. So yes,
Okay.
it's a good idea actually.
But you would need to check with the licensing authority. Would they have a category such as online magazine, or
There are 2,000 activities, so I'm sure it's there.
Find something somewhere. Okay. We're getting a lot of questions, and I think maybe because you have given people ideas and maybe they're thinking that maybe their license isn't right for them. A lot of people are sending me DMs asking about closing a business, and maybe you could just elaborate quickly for people about what the steps are that are involved in closing a business, just so they understand. Because, and some people are saying as well, well, if I just let my trade license expire, is that fine? Can I just forget about it? Ranging from a trade license to an e-trader, a Tadger license, can you talk about cancellations?
Okay. Never ever leave a license because it's just expired, because you might have trouble when you are in the airport trying to fly. So you never know. Sometimes there are as Jen actually just mentioned, that sometimes closing a license could be more costly than opening the license or setting up the license. So you need to close it properly as per the procedure of where the license has been set up. There might be fees, there might be penalties on daily basis, monthly basis for any expired license, and those fees might restrict you from, it may impact you heavily later in the future. So you need to take care why the procedure of closing down. And the closing, usually there's a reason why you close down. For example, unfortunately, if the business was not successful, if you have debt, etc. So you need to make sure that you have maybe settlement in place, already executed formally. So very important to look at the closing, which sometimes also include a court liquidation procedure, because you want to make sure that all the shareholders are involved in those procedure of liquidation or closing down the business. Especially if you are the manager. If you are the manager and the shareholder, you need to make sure, because you will have extra obligation on you being the manager, not only a shareholder.
Yeah. So, and the other thing as well, where you talk about creating a contingency fund and a reserve fund, I think this is best practice for any business, that you should be retaining a certain proportion of your profit, but also as well, if you're setting up a business, you should always have extra money set aside, because there are always things that you haven't anticipated. Maybe the law changes. This is such a new country still, that they're updating the company law and doing things as quickly as possible. So something that somebody told you last week might be different this week as well. So do make sure as well that you're not just scraping together the last amount of money that you have, that it does cost money to set up a business, and do have that contingency fund available to support that as well. I'm speaking from experience.
I agree.
Expect the unexpected.
Yeah.
This is such a wonderful country to have a business and run a business, but it is, it just takes some understanding about how it works and choosing the right trade license. And if you get that right, it makes it so much easier to go and run your business as well. Saleh, if we just move on to the next slide, we're getting a lot of questions. I hope that I've answered them. To answer people's questions, lots of people are messaging me asking about it being recorded. Yes, it is being recorded, and it will be available, and you will be notified about that. we have put together a survey. We're not done yet, so still wait, but I'm putting this on here now because we would be really grateful for you to fill this in, because UN Women and NAMA do need to get information from you about if you found these sessions useful, if you found that it's increased your knowledge. So we would be really grateful if you would fill that in, because that gives us the evidence that we need to show that the training is supporting and helping you in your businesses and grow as well. So please, everybody, I've popped it in the chat box, and I am going to pop the link in the chat box again. If you can just take 1 minute, it's a super quick survey. Go there, fill in that survey, and just let us know what you thought about the session. And I'll remind you again a few other times. Saleh, should we answer a couple more questions? And then I'm going to tell everybody about new sessions that are coming up and what to expect. I'm just looking, somebody wants to know about nonprofits and if there's specific free zones or mainland where they have to set up a nonprofit. Do you have any, or is that a more complicated question?
No, yes, no, I can give a quick answer. Non-profitable entity, or they call it non-profitable organization, it requires a license by one of the ministry, relevant ministry. And there are, actually even the name of the ministry in the UAE is evolving all the time. So they keep changing the name of the ministry. So because it's a non-profitable organization, so in the UAE, this structure is even more regulated, heavily regulated, because non-profitable doesn't mean that they don't make, that they don't generate income. They could generate income more than even a profitable structure. However, they are not allowed to, there is no like owners of this business that they divide the profit at the end of the year. So any income should be invested again for the specific core of this non-profitable organization.
Okay, great. And then a few people have asked as well, where is a good place for them to go to find updates to companies' law, and what is the relevant law in different Emirates? Is there a specific website or anywhere that they can find that information?
About?
So changes in company law in the UAE, either at a federal level or on an Emirate level.
Yes, I mean, speaking as a lawyer, in every country there is the official gazette where every single law amendment or new law have to be published there in order to become an active law. This is one thing where only usually lawyers look at it. Yeah. However, each government department usually provide all the updates related to their area. So you need to check, for example, Ministry of Economy website, economic departments. We at ICLO also provide a lot of information through our social media accounts, and we try to bring relevant updates, especially related to startups.
Great, excellent. One question that a few people asked and also DM'd me about was if we could recommend any companies that could help them with business startup. And what I wanted to say to that is we don't recommend specific companies, that it's always best. I always recommend to people, because what is a great company for one person might not be for another person. There's so many different factors for that. And the best thing that you should be doing is to be getting multiple quotes and going out and speaking with people to find that information. Don't just go to one person or one company because a friend has told you that it's been good. And you can also look not only at business setup companies, but also law firms as well. For example, even like Saleh's law firm, I know, does that as well, and they work with SMEs, because you want to make sure that you get it done right and you get the information right. So do always ask for a lot of quotes. Don't just go for the first person that you speak with, or the first free trade zone, or whatever you do. Find a few options so you can see what's the best solution for your business. Did I answer that correctly, Saleh?
I cannot add on top of you, yes.
Excellent. I'm just looking, lots of people are saying, thank you so much, Saleh. It was really great. Everybody, please fill in the survey. I think one other question, actually, this is, and just to let you know, we are going to have a session on this, that people wanted to know about intellectual property rights. Now, we will have a whole workshop on IP, but I don't know if in sort of 1 minute or less, you can say anything about intellectual property and how it works in the UAE.
Yes, IP or intellectual property is a wide range of different legal aspects. So it's not, it's different between copyright to trademark to patent, etc., design. So, but what I wanted to say that to give your business all the future opportunity, it's important to invest from the beginning on trademark registration. Proper IP protection within your agreements, the agreement I mentioned earlier, for example, that the company owned all the products or whatever is the product. Nowadays, content writing is a product. So this is crucial to be clearly identified in your contract, because it will impact heavily, positively or negatively, your future success.
Excellent.
But again, IP is a very detailed, specific area of law, and it deserves to have a whole session about it.
Now, and we are going to have some very detailed sessions over the next couple of years as this program goes on, because there's so many areas that we can go deep into. So we will be going deeper into areas such as intellectual property, also into areas such as contracts that you need to have for your business, and other areas as well, not only in that area. Also, a lot of people were asking about finance and accounting. We already have had one general accounting session, and we will be having a more detailed session on that, and also looking at things like VAT and accounting softwares and all of those wonderful things that you need to have in place to run your business. Now, Kelly, could we just go to the last slide, because I'm going to unveil for you what we have coming up over the summer. So even though it's summer and some people might be going on holiday, we are going to be having a number of sessions. They will be online, and if you are on the mailing list of UN Women or NAMA or one of our number of partners, you will be getting information about this. These are the sessions lined up for the summer. We're trying to cover a number of different topics that people have said that they need support in. So we'll be looking at, for more experienced business owners, looking at what they can get in place to be ready to grow their business. We'll be looking at business planning basics, digital marketing strategies, basics of branding, and then a more detailed one for people who are maybe looking at selling or having investment in their business as well. So all of those are coming up over the next 3 months. And just to show you the session that we have coming up at the end of July with Hazel Jackson, who is the founder and CEO of Biz Group. Kelly, if we can have the next slide, please. And Hazel is running this session. It's going to be a 2-hour workshop, and she's going to take you through a number of processes to get those in place for running your business and growing your business. So on that, I would like to thank you, Saleh, very much for your time today. It's been a wonderful session, and you've given us so much insight into business setup and what people need to do to have their businesses licensed properly. So thank you so much for your time. And also thank you so much to UN Women and NAMA Women Advancement Establishment for supporting women entrepreneurs in the UAE. And thank you to all of you who joined us. We really appreciate it. And thank you for spending the past 90 minutes with us. And remember, we are always stronger together, and we're stronger when we're working together to build women entrepreneurs in the UAE. So thank you so much to all of you for your time today. And we will see you on the 28th of July. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Saleh.